Hey guys, my name is Blaze and welcome to a new video of Code Bytes here on my channel. And what we are going to do is I'm going to answer this question here. How do you combine the Smash Brothers style combos code with a one button combos code? I want it so that when you don't input any direction and only press the attack button, the character will do a 3-hit combo like the one on the one button combo tutorial you made. I have no idea how to do it. Can you help me? So I really like this comment because it's an actual question. They need help. And of course, with my first response, I did lead them to another video that I made using the sequential attacks thing or the one button combos thing. And essentially, I tried to help them. That's how I choose to help people. Got my words mixed up there a bit. So let's keep going. Basically, what they want to do is probably make a fighting game. I'm not entirely sure about that. And so let's just get started with the project. What I have here, I have 5 sprites. One is idle. One is the running sprite. And I have 3 different attacking sprites. And you can see there in each of the sub images, they are different. So let me just close all those. Keep in mind here that the speed as well, if you're using GMS2, then the speed here will be what determines the speed of the actual play time of the sprite. Very useful for when you forget to set the speed. Okay, so let's open up our player object. Here we have, I've already started here. And basically what I've got here is I've got 4 variables that we are going to be using. We'll be filling this in as we go. But the first thing that we've got here is a direction, an action, sequence count, which I've also labeled as the combo counter, and a state. And I've initialized all of these to 0 because we don't actually have values for these yet. So let's leave that as is for now, because the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a script. Now, this script will hold our macros. I'm going to call my script macros. If you're using Studio 1 or 1.4, then your macros are going to be in your resource tree. There's a little macros tab there. You can add your macros down there. But for everybody using GMS2, then we have to do this way. So using the keyword macro, don't forget that hash there at the start. The keyword macro, give your macros names. So I'm going to use no key. So basically, if we're not pressing anything, and I'm going to give that a value of 0. Take note of the syntax here. I haven't put down a semicolon at the end, and there's no equal sign here. When you're writing macros here in Studio 2, it's slightly different, so just keep that in mind. We're also going to have another macro for moving left and right. Even though we're not going to have left and right movement, we are just going to stick to playing animations and getting input to play those animations and do other things. We are going to still have to have that check, so I'm going to move left and right, so really it's just flipping in an image. So I'm going to have macro horizontal. I'm going to set that to 1. Last but not least, we need another macro here. Basically, this is going to be our action. This is going to be a macro for attack, and we're going to set that to 0 as well. Don't worry that I have 2 0 values. They're really just placeholder numbers. They're not really anything, well, they are important, but it's the number of values that they have in this case, not really. So I'm going to tag these macros here. These top 2 here, they're going to be our direction. And I'm hoping that you guys can make the link now, because really in our player object up here, we have direction and action. And down here in our macros, we also have direction and action. So we can now give these two some default values. So our default direction will be no key. So basically we're not pressing anything at the start. And our action will be idle. Now I completely forgot to write that. We do need the macro idle. That should be 0 and attack should be 1. Because remember, we're not always going to be attacking. There are going to be situations where we're not doing anything. So those are the 4 macros that you will need. Again, if you're in Studio 1.4 and below, then your macros are going to be in the resource tree that you've got. But if you're here in Studio 2, this is where you create your macros. All right, so moving on. Let's now put in the actual code that we're going to use. So what we're going to do first is create our combos. We're going to create an array of combos or an array of sprites. And I'm going to label this combo array. And we will have a no key combo. And we're going to label that 0. And we are going to use view horizontal combo 0. That's basically what it is. Now we're going to copy that twice, copy and paste that twice, but obviously we don't want to change the same value. We want to move down one, and we want to use a different sprite as well. So there's our no key combo here. We then need to have the horizontal combo. Let me label that too. And basically what we're going to do here is I'm just going to use horiz, because horizontal is just a bit long to write. And again, we're going to use the same 3 sprites, but we will use them in different orders. So we'll go view. We'll start from the top. We'll go from combo 2, and then we'll go 1 and then 0. I think that works much better than having the exact same looking one. 1 and 0. And of course, don't forget to change the value of your array, otherwise nothing will change. Or you'll only get the bottom one. And so now what we are going to do is actually have the sprites that we're actually going to draw by creating a 2D array. So type in sprite. I just want to let you guys know that this is a response video to a request. So if I'm going too fast for you guys, or if I'm not explaining everything, it's because a lot of the concepts that I'm using here, I've used in previous videos already. So go check those out, because I just want to answer the question, get it done, and hopefully Gavin, our friend Gavin, will have learned something, hopefully. So our sprite here, what we have here, what we're going to put in for the actual array is going to be the direction and action. So basically what we need to do for sprite is say, okay, well, we need one for no key. Whoops, no key. And let's say they're not doing anything at all. So not pressing any keys, not attacking. And idle. So basically they're doing nothing. And we're going to say view idle. We've assigned that. The next thing that we're going to do is say sprite. Again, we're going to use horizontal, so that macro there. But we're not pressing any attack keys. So what we're going to do is say idle again. But this time we're going to use the sprite view run. Now comes the actual attacking. So again, sprite, no key, and attack. And we're going to use view horiz combo 0. Now why am I doing that if I've already got these up here? Well, what I'm doing is I'm actually giving it a default value. So let me code that in. This will change as we go through this tutorial. So the next line here is going to be sprite, and of course we need one where we're moving and attacking. So sprite, horizontal, and attack. So again, this is just a very bare bones tutorial. That's because I just want to answer the question and not present too many confusing topics. So this is basically what it should look like. Something like this. Obviously, your project is probably going to have more combos. In that case, you would have to choose, add in extras. Extra macros and extra sprites if you absolutely need them. For example, you might have one where you might have an aerial combo, or you might have, I don't know, maybe you have a larger combo size depending on where you are, if you're on the ground, if you're moving, or if you're not moving. So take those into account if you are following along. So now that that's done, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a step event. And in this step event, we're going to do this. We're going to just write sprite index equals, and what we're going to do is we're going to reference the sprite here. So sprite. Now in these brackets, this is very important that you follow along carefully. Inside of these square brackets, we're going to put in direction and action. The reason for that is because both our direction and our action will change depending on what keys we press. So let's put this in for now. Direction and action. Simple. Very, very simple, I hope. So let's play the game and let's see what that happens. What happens here. Really, it should just play an idle animation. Nothing special, but that's what we have so far. What we're going to do now that we have this is we're going to give the game, or our little project, we're going to give our little game a means to actually change the direction and change the action to be horizontal and attack. So we're going to create another script, and we're going to call this script get input. I need to tell you guys now, it's a good idea to separate your input script from all your other scripts, because it gets kind of messy if you have it all in one script. Because what if you're not calling that script anymore? It's pretty bad. So I would suggest you split your scripts up, but that's just my suggestion. So here we go. With get input, we're going to name a variable. We're going to call it horiz. And basically what we're going to do here is give it a left and right direction. So we're going to say keyboard check vk underscore right minus keyboard check. Whoops. Direct is another version of keyboard check, but I don't want to have to explain too much. And so we'll just leave it at keyboard check. So basically we're saying if we're going right, that's a positive number, minus 1, which would be a negative number. And that's about all we need for now. Obviously, if you're making the top-down video, if you're making a top-down game and you're implementing 3-hit attacks, then go watch the 3-hit attacks video that I made. That's probably going to help you a lot more than this one here. So this one here, we've got our input. We don't need that anymore. That's done. Finished. Again, the macros, we're done with that too. What we need to do now is we actually need to create states. And we're going to basically work on this one here, this state one here. So we're going to create another script, and I'm going to call mine state idle, all capital letters for idle. So state idle will basically have, how should I explain this? Basically our idle state will be pressing no keys, and if we're only pressing left and right, so basically if we're just moving, we're not attacking or anything, that's all we're doing. So here we go, let's call the get input script, because we need to make sure that we can actually get input. Now here, we need to check if our horiz, so basically if we press left or right, is not equal to, actually you know what, we'll do it the easy way. We'll do it if horizontal is greater than 0, then image x scale, so we're flipping a sprite, equals 1. And we also need to say that the direction equals horizontal. So now we're influencing the direction. So now we can say, hey, if we are pressing the horizontal key, we can now run. Okay, now another thing that I need to do also is check for the left key. So else if horiz is less than 0, then image x scale equals -1. But since we're moving, we're still saying direction equals horizontal. Oops. There we go. That's done. Now, there is a shorter way to actually get these two done, but I'm showing you a very beginner-friendly way to do this. And of course, for the last line here, we need else direction equals no key, because we're not pressing anything, therefore we don't really need to do anything else. So that's it. That's all we need to do. Up here, back in the player object, we are changing this state here from 0 to be state idle. So let's fill that in. Oops. State idle. Now don't put the brackets in, just leave the semicolon at the end, because if we have the brackets in, we call it, but that's not what we want. What we want is just the semicolon at the end. So we're setting the variable. We're not calling a script. Okay, so before we actually change the sprite, we need to add another line in. What we're going to use is script, I think it's script execute. Yes, script execute, and basically we're just going to use this variable here, state. So let's just fill that in, state. Done. Let's see what that looks like in the game now. Okay, so there we go. We have nothing. Hopefully this works. I press right, cool, he runs rightwards. If I press left, the image flips and he goes the other way. So awesome. So we can move left and right, but we still can't attack. But that's okay, because we are now going to fill that part in too. All right, so with the get input script, we're going to add another check. This time it's going to be attack. Keep in mind the spelling here. You can see here that I've written attack as a variable, but it's different to how I've written the macro. Make sure that your spelling is different, otherwise you will end up with errors all throughout your code. So make sure that your spelling is different. If you're going to name your macros and your variables, you're going to give them similar names, make sure they are different. So for me, for my attack, I'm going to say keyboard check press. Now we only want to check it once. So keyboard check pressed, I'm going to say VK space. Done. And back here in the state idle script, what I'm going to do is say if attack, we are going to do some stuff. We're going to do something. We're first going to reset the animation. So image index equals 0. What it does is, if you're playing an animation like an idle animation or an attack animation, what you want to be able to do is actually tell it to say, hey, go back to the start of your animation. The thing is, what happens here if you don't include this line is it will switch the sprite, but what's going to happen is it's actually going to switch it at the same frame value. So say, for example, if my view idle was at frame 5 and I press the attack key, it will try to find a frame 5 here. It will go straight to the frame 5 of my combo attack. So that's why it's really important that you have this line here to reset the animation. Okay, we'll leave that there for now. Let's create another script, and I'm going to call this state attack. Again, using all capital letters for state attack. But we're just going to close that for now. We'll just leave that for now. Down the bottom here, what we are going to do is we are going to say, we're going to say state equals state attack. Remember, don't put the brackets in because we want to set the variable. We don't want to call the script. So that's pretty much it for now. For this part of for the state idle part. But what we're going to do over here is we're going to say in the state attack, we need to change the action. So here we're going to say action equals, what action are we doing? We're doing an attack action. Done. And that's really all that we need to do for that. That is literally it for that script. Remember, I'm just trying to answer the question on its own. I'm not trying to give you guys a complete or robust tutorial, just to answer a question. It's actually quite complex when you think about it. So here we go. Our next line is going to be sprite. And we are going to actually reference the arrays that we created up here. Remember how we have these two sprites here that have attack, but we have different sprite combos depending on if we're pressing a key or not. So what we need to do is actually say, hey, sprite, we need to change your value. But to change the value of an array in GameMaker, what you need to do is use the @ symbol. We'll start with no key, and attack. We need to change that to match the function or to match the value of our no key combo. So what we're going to do down here is type no key combo, but inside these square brackets, we're going to put in the sequence count or your combo count. What it does is it will draw the appropriate sprite depending on the actual sequence count. So let's put that in. I'll put sequence count in, SE sequence count. There we go. In the same way, we're going to do that for the horizontal and attack sprites as well. So instead of no key, what we're going to do is say horizontal. And the sprite here, the name of the variable here is horiz combo. And that's what we're going to put in. So horiz combo sequence count. So have a look at that. That's what it looks like at this point. Now let's play the game and let's see what that looks like. I've already hit 23 minutes, so this is quite a complex question actually. You can see here that I've pressed the space key once and now he's just stuck in an eternal loop. What we need to do is, well, we can close that script. That's pretty much done. What we need to do is actually say, hey, we need to check if we have already finished the animation. And if we have, then we need to do something about that. So what we are going to do is we're going to go into add event, and I think it's in other. Yes. So in the animation end event, what we are going to do is we're going to create a switch statement. It's kind of like a compact if statement. So switch, in this case, we are checking the state. And if we are in case state idle, so if we are in the idle script or in the idle state, we're not going to do anything. Break basically means stop running, stop doing whatever you're doing. But if we are in the attack state, so state attack, then what we are going to do is say sequence count. We're going to add that up, so we're going to increase it by 1. That's what the plus means. And then what we're going to do is say if our not combo count, I changed it to sequence count. Sequence count is greater than, I'm going to say 3. Then we're going to reset the sequence. Sequence count equals 0. And then of course we need to change the action back to idle. And then we're going to change the state back to state idle. And then we're going to break. Done. So basically what we're doing here is after we've played the attack animation, we'll add +1 to our sequence. So remember, it starts at 0. If our sequence count is greater than 3, 3 being the size of the arrays that I've got here, we then need to change that back to 0. So we need to reset the sequence. Then we change the action back to idle, which should be all capitals. And then we need to change the state back to state idle, which will basically take them back to the idle animation that we have. So let's have a look at what that looks like. Let's play the game. I know I should be pressing F5, but I'm having a few problems with my keyboard. So here we go. Let's we can move. So we've already proven that. If we press 1, 2, 3. Now if we're pressing like right on the keyboard, 1, 2, 3. So it plays different animations, plays a different sequence of animations depending on if you're pressing a direction or not. So Gavin, I hope this answers your question. And for everybody else, if you are curious about how you could implement the one button combos into like a fighting game, a Smash Brothers style fighting game, then hopefully this is your answer. Again, if you have any questions, you have errors, then please do feel free to ask me. But for now, that's all from me. I hope to talk to you guys later, and I'll come back with a new RPG tutorial series, okay? That's all from me, guys. That's it for now. Bye-bye.